Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools in Brandon takes pride in selling the tools farmers and tradespeople rely on. Like our Winnipeg location, Brandon carries the same tools you know and love. From all the brands you can trust, all in one convenient place. And with unbeatable service, we'll make sure you get the right tools to get the job done. Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools in Brandon, proud to serve Brandon's industrial needs since 2018. Stop on by today at 358 Park Avenue East. And good morning, Buffaloes Nation. Welcome into this week's edition of the Buffaloes podcast on G Show Productions on gshow.ca. I'm your host, Graham the G Show Forsyth. We're brought to you by Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, Terrico, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, and Goaltenders. As for Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, showcase to you all there to start off this episode, our newest commercial from their Brandon store location. If you're in that area or close to Brandon, be sure to check it out, as they got a lot of great selection, much like their Winnipeg store in the province of Manitoba. But yeah, as for Goaltenders, Gordy Tumilson's brand, he's going to be joining the show here as the second guest of this Buffaloes podcast. We're going to start off with talking to two female Prep U18 players, two first-year players, one a defenseman and one a forward, that defenseman being Sadie Swanton, and the forward being Tessa Haggard. We're going to get into, just their first year, how it's been going for them at Pilot Mound, as well as talking a bit about the upcoming playoffs that this team is going to be playing in starting in March. Gordy's going to be coming on the show to recap and preview a bit about what's to come for these teams in the academy and more here on the official Pilot Mound Hockey Academy podcast on G Show Productions on gshow.ca. We're going to start off with Sadie Swanton and Tessa Haggard joining this edition of the show next. Two first-year Pilot Mound Buffaloes from the U18 female prep team joining this edition of the Buffaloes podcast in Sadie Swanton and in Tessa Haggard. Thanks for joining me, you two. I think the big question our viewers probably want to know first off is how it came to be for you two to both choose Pilot Mound as that next place to play.
For me, I think it was just the best place for me because everything was so close and you get to practice and work out every day. So
Yeah, me as well. I just got back from an injury, so I just wanted to go somewhere that I could get a lot of development for the year. And there's lots of ice time and everything, so we can get better a lot faster.
Right, no, for sure. Always something that players love to bring up is that extra ice time. I guess for you, Tessa, what's it been like this year getting to get back to playing normally again, coming off of the injury? How that journey's been?
At the beginning, it was kind of hard, gaining confidence again. But so right now, it's been a lot better, and I've got my confidence back and everything, so it's good.
Oh, that's great to hear. Is there one specific part of your game you feel has really been thriving to be able to give you the confidence again, or is it just your overall game kind of coming back and clicking together again?
Just just being able to trust myself that I'm not gonna like re-injure it.
Right. Yeah. And I went through injury playing in I guess in my minor hockey days, and yeah, it was never fun, and it takes a lot of mental strength to come back strong, and it's great to know that you've been able to do that so far. For yourself, Sadie, you come from Dauphin, Manitoba. Tell me a bit about what was your, I guess, hockey lifestyle, your playing career, where you were playing at before Pilot Mound.
I was playing with the boys. It's like a parkland team that's around Dauphin. And then I made the switch over to the girls when I came here.
Oh, right on. That's the Parkland Rangers, I assume.
Yeah.
Right on. And yeah, I'm sure it's been a nice change for you too to be able to play with all girls instead of mixing with boys on a co-ed team. But what was that experience truly like? The value I guess you took out of that in terms of being able to play with I guess boys hockey players leading up to this year.
I think it was really good for my development because like they're really competitive and like the speed of everything is just a lot faster. So it was good for me. And then I made the switch and it was a little bit easier of a switch, I think. So
Is that something that you pride your game on? I mean, you've had a fantastic year in your first year in Pilot Mountain. You also had a chance to go to the top 68 program of excellence tryouts, I guess a few weekends ago now. But the competitive edge in your game, is that something that truly drives you to be the player you are, Sadie?
yeah, I think so. Like playing with the boys, it made me a little bit more physical, I would say. So that's part of my game now. But
So I guess what's that transition been like for yourself? And then I'll ask or get Tessa to answer the question. But of playing at this level now, where things have been pretty competitive in that CSSHL U18 prep division in the female side all year.
I think it was easy to make the switch, but I think at the start it was a little bit difficult to like get used to it still, and then like as the year went on, it was a lot better.
Right on. For you, Tessa, of course, getting back into the swing of things, what's this been like for your game being able to go out against some of the best players from around this country this year in your first year back?
It's pretty cool actually. I like it. There's lots of competitiveness and very aggressive. Everyone is very aggressive, and it's good. Very high speed hockey.
Right. Yeah. And I think, yeah, that's something that's becoming more and more prominent in the female game as there's more physicality and just more skill growing throughout that. Speaking of this year's group of girls, what's that been like as first year players being able to come into this Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy environment on this team and being able to bond with this year's group?
Uh, I think everybody's got really close so far. Living with each other is just like helps a lot. But yeah, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's lots of good leaders on our team to help us with the move from home.
Right on. And yeah, I mean, you girls have been able to spend a lot of time with each other, been able to bond in many different ways. I'll ask you this first, Tessa, and then you can answer after, Sadie. But favorite memories so far from this year, whether it's hockey or something else the team's been able to do?
I think my favorite memory was when we played ranked Winnipeg at home and all the teams dressed up for Halloween, and it was just very good atmosphere. And everyone was it was a great game that we played, and we won.
Oh, right on. A
And
win. A
I think
win's
five.
always great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Close.
it was such a fun game to play in, and just such good energy in the stands from all the other teams cheering.
Yeah, and that's, I think, one of the special parts of Pilot Mound too, right? When everyone's able to be in town, able to support each other, it just makes it so much more fun. I've been in that building before when teams have been watching one of the Buffalo teams in action, and it's always a lot of support in there. Before Sadie answers, Tessa, best costume, who wore it this year? Was it from the U18 female preps or one of the other three academies?
Um, we were playing, so we didn't weren't dressed up, but I think the dinosaur. Someone was dressed up in a dinosaur. Yeah.
That's always a fun one. Always creative to see what
Yeah.
type of costumes that these players or the people in Pilot Mound come up with, the players playing in the academy. For you, Sadie, favorite memories so far, whether that's the same answer as Tessa's or maybe something else.
Yeah, no, for sure that Halloween game was probably a big memory, but also just like meeting everyone like from all over Canada and then some from the United States too. It's really good to get to know other people.
Yeah, right on. And I think those are the experiences you'll come away with remembering the most, right? The connections and the friendships that you could end up making. You had a chance to get together with a lot of Manitoba's best a few weekends ago at the Hockey for All Center now for the top 68 tryouts at the Program of Excellence. Tryouts, I guess, for the women's nationals team. That's going to be, I guess, sad coming up later this year. But yeah, take me through that experience, what that was like getting to compete in camp.
Oh, it was really cool. There's lots of good talent there, and like you get to play with them at that camp, and then you play with them against them during the season. So it's kind of cool to like be on their team on the other side of it. So.
Right, right. A lot of CSSHL talent in there, and chance to get together, like I said, with some of the best from around Manitoba. From that experience, getting to go through what you went through in that camp, how do you feel like you were able to take stuff away from that, or even improve as a player from that experience?
I think since you're playing against all those great players, it like helps you improve your game, and then also just like the coaching, how they like if they want you to do something differently or better, then they like let you know so that you can try to like do it better the next time.
For you, Tessa, of course, getting a chance to, compete in that game against RHA. You talked about that being one of your favorite experiences or your favorite experience of the year so far. I guess, what are you hoping to accomplish here moving forward with Pilot Mountain, looking to build more great memories? Are you planning to come back next year for a second year crack at this? What are the plans, I guess, for the future for Tessa Haggard?
I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do yet next year. I am very far from home right now. My parents probably want me home, but we haven't really figured it out yet. We're still thinking about it, and it's a very good experience to be here. I recommend it a lot.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that's very fair, right? I mean, you're still very young and you come all the way from Rocky Mountain House, Alberta. Of course, you spoke about how, I mean, Sadie spoke about the group of girls and how huge it's been, their positivity. I think you spoke about it as well early on in this interview. How is this environment, I guess, you've been able to play and helped out with, I guess, some of the homesickness that I'm sure is very natural, and you felt that at points this year, I assume.
Yeah, like there's been times like right before Christmas I was like wanting to go home see my family, but it's been okay having lots of people. Once you get close with them, it's better when you're like close with all your teammates and they can like support you through this.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, a situation like this too definitely grows you as a person, I assume. How have you felt that you've been able to grow as an individual throughout this time here in a very long CSSHL season with Pilot Mound?
I feel like it's gonna help me a lot in the future when I'm like going to university or college, just so I know how it feels to like live on myself without my parents with me.
No, for sure. Definitely huge for that type of experience that you'll be hoping to get down the line, looking to get to that next level in university. For you, Sadie, of course, you come from a bit closer to Pilot Mountain from home in Dauphin, Manitoba. But any plans, I guess, for yourself where you see yourself coming up in the foreseeable future? Is it going to be potentially with this Pilot Mountain squad?
Yeah, I mean, Pilot Mound's definitely like in the like future for me, I think, but like you're never really too sure. But
Yeah, no, staying present and keeping an open mind, I think, is huge. Is that what this team's looking to do, I guess, heading into the final games of this season, going into playoffs, knowing that there's a great chance for this team to do good things, knowing that the teams you'll be competing against are on your level record-wise?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good playoffs. The last past weekend, we had a really good weekend against some of the teams that are going to be in our like bracket for playoffs. So I think it should be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, Tessa, I mean, I actually had a chance to speak to the goalie coach, Gordy Tummelson, and we will play this interview, I guess, coming up after this one that we're doing right now in the episode. But he talked about how huge this was for the confidence of this team potentially. How is this team feeling from your perspective, Tessa, heading into the upcoming playoffs, knowing that, like Sadie said, that the team was able to come away with some wins against teams that you'll most likely be facing off against?
I feel like being able to get some wins under us the past weekend will definitely help us for playoffs. And we're hoping to win this weekend against Balmoral so that we'll have a little bit more confidence going in there and being able to beat the teams that are close to us.
You know, Sadie brought up the competitive aspect of her game earlier on in this interview. And I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of pride heading into this one, two Manitoba teams going at it. Does that make this game even that much more special, knowing that it's against a historically great team that's been here in Manitoba and Balmoral that you two and the rest of this team are facing off against? So I could get Sadie to answer this first, and then Tessa, you can answer.
Oh, yeah, I think it's a really big game for us, just especially since we're both Manitoba teams. It kind of makes the competition a little bit higher than it might normally be, but
No, for sure. And I mean, Tessa, you're from Alberta, but you've had a chance to become a Manitoban this year in a way. How excited are you to be a part of this rivalry for one last time this season?
I'm pretty excited. We're just trying to prepare a team over the past couple of days so that we can work hard and win a game against them. We've had some close games the past few times we played them, and hopefully this time we can beat them.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm hoping that you girls come away with the victory. I'm sure everyone at Pilot Mound and everyone who supports this team is hoping for the W too, of course. But one last question I got to ask you both, knowing that there's going to be something to play for, even though this team is in the top playoff competition level, but there's going to be a banner from what I've heard that the winner of your division gets if you're able to win. Knowing that there's even more to play with, some bragging rights on the line, does that make this team even more fired up heading into this year's playoffs against the competition you'll be facing down in Alberta or BC, as I should say?
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone's pretty excited to play in playoffs. I heard a very good experience in CSSHL league. Um, yeah, I think we're all pretty excited to go play for a banner.
And for you, Sadie?
yeah, I think so as well. I think you always like want to do your best and try to win, so I think it will play a part in our time in the playoffs. But
Yeah, and what a playoffs it could be. This Buffaloes team has a great chance to do some great things to end off this season, and Sadie and Tessa looking to be huge parts of it, along with all the rest of this Buffaloes U18 female prep program. Girls, thanks for taking the time and joining me. Best of luck coming up against Balmoral and in the playoffs. Hey, wishing you two the best moving forward as well. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia offers the widest selection of sports cards and signed memorabilia in the city. For dedicated casual and new collectors, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia has everything a collector could ask for. Everything we sell is stored with care, and with help from our knowledgeable team, we'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. We carry Upper Deck hockey card brands like Series 1 and 2, the Cup, Ultimate, SPA, and plenty more. So what are you waiting for? Come down to Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Winnipeg's premier sports cards and memorabilia store. And welcome back to the Buffaloes podcast. Sadie Swanton and Tessa Haggard, two U18 female prep players, join this edition of the show to start things off. We're going to be joined by another guest here coming up soon. But before we get into anything, just want to showcase some pictures from around the academy. Last Thursday it was Team Canada versus Team USA in the Four Nations tournament final, as there's players who come from Canada, of course, that attend Pilot Mound, but also players that come from the States. So, as you can see here, these players wearing their nation's jerseys with pride, and all the Buffaloes had a chance to sit around in the dorms and take that matchup in. Always fun when this team's able to bond together. Players in the academy are able to bond together like that, and get to watch their nations collide with each other, take each other on in a good old game of hockey. And what a Four Nations tournament that was, and an awful victory for Team Canada, which I'm ecstatic about, given that, being from Canada, it's good to know that they're able to come away with yet another gold medal win with best on best play. Speaking of some of the best, Pilot Mound is going to be playing against the best from their divisions, from their respective skill levels coming up in the playoffs here. Gordy Tummelson and I, we're going to be talking about playoffs just a bit in this episode. It's going to be more to come on the playoffs throughout the upcoming episodes of the Buffaloes podcast here. But what me and Gordy do in this episode is we not only talk about what's to come, but the past games for the teams in the academy, as well as some upcoming stuff for Pilot Mound on the player development / recruiting side of things. So that's still to come here on G Show Productions on gshow.ca on the Buffaloes podcast with Gordy Tummelson joining the show next. It's Gordy Tummelson joining this week's edition of the Buffaloes podcast. Gordy, 3 out of the 4 teams were in action this past weekend for Pilot Mound. The U18s, of course, going to be playing today, or they already played today. I guess we'll speak about that a bit later on. But the U18 female prep Buffaloes had some wins this past weekend. Take us through the Buffaloes female prep there past weekend with some success down in there.
Well, they had success all weekend long. It was great. They won 2 out of 4. That's nice, and they won those 2 games handily, scoring 7 and 8 goals in those 2 games. And they lost 2, but they lost by 1 in each game. So their defensive game has got to be. So they lost 4-3, 3-2. They won 7-0, 8-3. When you give up, 10 goals in 4 games, that's not a bad record. Especially for this group, they've been a bit sketchy sometimes, and we scored some goals. And so at the end of the day, we're pretty pleased about coming off that this past weekend. Got one more game coming up on the weekend, this coming weekend with Balmoral in Winnipeg, and then it's off to the playoffs at some point next week. So great weekend for the girls. They were pretty pumped after it was all done.
Yeah, and Gordy, I mean, like you said, we're getting closer and closer to playoffs, right? And to be able to go out there, keep a team like Delta Hockey Academy close, only losing 4-3 to a team that's ranked sixth place in the league, and taking care of business against a team that's more in their realm of record and skill this year in Okanagan Hockey Academy Black, and then taking on Bourget College Prep, losing the first game and then winning big, especially with all of this coming up as we're ramping up towards gearing up for the playoffs. How huge was this weekend of success, especially for this team, given that we're so close to the games that truly matter?
Well, it's perfect for us. Girls are, it seems that well, everybody's, needs confidence. That's it. But girls are they're just vivid on confidence. I mean, they're just there. If they don't have it, man, you can just wipe them right off the map. And they'll tell you that almost. Boys will battle, it doesn't matter. They'll go and fight, and if they don't win, okay, fine. Girls need to feel good about themselves and about what's going on. Boys play to feel good. Girls need to feel good to play. I think that's the saying. And so, yeah, we're coming in there, going to go into the playoffs, feeling pretty good about ourselves. Balmoral Hall's a good test this coming weekend. Lots of practices, lots of last minute preparation. We gave our goalies an extra charge last night in terms of, our expectations for them and what we hope they can pull off. And we're going to be playing against teams that are in our realm, in our, our standings realm. That's really important. It's fine to play all these games all year long and we're mismatched quite often. But when we're playing against teams in our realm, boy, oh boy, our guys feel pretty good about it. And when we get a chance to knock some of these guys off and win some games, yeah, one never knows. And the neat part about all these playoffs this year, I understand, didn't know this until this week, but there's actual tournament recognition for the winners. Last year they played some games, kind of a round robin, came home. This year, if you win it, you get a banner, you get a trophy. I don't know what you get, but you get something, and off you go. So good on the league to spruce that up a bit, and the girls will be pumped. I know after this past weekend.
Yeah, and just gives you something, an item to play for, right, Gordy? Doesn't mean you're just going down to play three games and then boom, you're home. Actually put some more stakes into it, and I think that just makes everything so much more fun. Some Manitoba Pride on the line coming up this Friday as Pilot Mound heading into Winnipeg at the Hockey for All Center to take on Balmoral Hall. Gordy, let's move into the U17 Prep Buffaloes now, who for them this past weekend were able to have some success. Their final games on the schedule this year ended off with a loss to a very good Saha team. But yeah, take me through their past weekend. Must be feeling good knowing you're able to come away with two out
Hmm.
of three games with wins and also putting up a fight against Alberta Hockey Academy.
Yeah, a lot of time on the bus. I think they spent more time on the bus than breathing, possibly. I mean, it was get on the bus before the game on Friday, arrive, play the game, get on the, they stayed overnight in around Wilcox, and they go to Regina, and then they back there and play another game. Won those two and again fairly handily and whatnot. So good on our guys to get on a bus, get off a bus, and do all that kind of stuff. Immediately after the game on Saturday, got on the bus and drove to Medicine Hat, which seems like an odd thing to be doing. I think it should have been coming from the other way, but however, at the end of the day, that was the deal, and they came up a bit short, got off the bus on Saturday night, played Sunday, and came back home Sunday evening, and played a decent game on Sunday. That's three games in 3 days, and good physical games and good competition. And Saha is a pretty good group, so it was a good competition, good for our players to get some games in, and they're done now until they go away on the 2nd of March. They play their first game on the 2nd of March next Sunday, so that's good. That's great for them. They're going to go right in and blast away.
Yeah, a lot of fun coming up for a team in Piedmont this season that finished 17th ranked. But Gordy, I mean, on a road trip, like you mentioned, hard to, play in a situation where you're traveling to another province very shortly after you just played a game in the other, right? But finishing off against the seventh ranked South Alberta Hockey Academy team for this Pilot Mound team to finish off as strong as they did heading into the playoffs, like the U18 female preps, must give this team a lot of confidence and a lot of belief heading into their upcoming games.
Sure. When you're playing within the sort of the competitive realm that you're at your best in, you're going to have more confidence. I mean, when you know you're not going to beat the WHL team that's waiting for you in Edmonton or in Calgary, well, that's no fun. I mean, that just isn't fun anymore. It's okay, and you learn, but okay, now we're getting to the nitty-gritty here. So let's play some people that if we play our best and they play their best, we got a chance to win this game. And that's the challenge. Everybody likes to be challenged and not overwhelmed. Challenged is good, and we're going to be challenged. We're going to challenge other guys, and again, we're playing for some sort of a recognition, I guess, in terms of a trophy or a banner. That's great, and we always remind the kids that they're playing for their hockey futures if they've got one, and so the guy who might sign them 2 or 3 years down the road to a junior hockey contract or something else or a college thing, they'll be watching. So put on your best show, and that's one of the reasons we're in this league. Is a lot of games, a lot of chances to show your stuff. So go for it, boys.
Yeah, and Rick McConnell, of course, mentioned this before, but had a chance to speak with him earlier this year on the podcast. And yeah, Rick talking about how this team, a younger team than he's had in the past, well, he gets to find out what they're truly made of coming up in these playoffs, which will start March 2nd for this U17 Prep Buffaloes group. Gordy, we're going to get into the U15s as well as the U18 male Prep Buffaloes coming up next after this short little transition on this edition of the official Pilot Mound Hockey Academy podcast on G Show Productions. Welcome back, everybody, to the Buffaloes podcast. Me and Gordy having a good laugh here before we get into talking about the U15 Prep Buffaloes. As Gordy, they were in action 3 times playing against teams like Okanagan Hockey Academy, BWC Academy, and Delta Hockey Academy, all in Alberta. Only a game left remaining in the season at this point. Wasn't the outcome they wanted this past weekend, but always a weekend where you can learn things. What do you think this U15 team learned about themselves at this point? Of course, yes, going up against great competition again.
Well, they got to play tougher. They got to play. They got to, go play faster. They've got to do things better. Those teams are better than we are. OHA always. I mean, the OHA game was 0-0 going into the third, and we kind of let our foot off the gas just a little bit. Thinking we sort of kind of we're playing with them, but you got to keep you got to keep the pedal to the metal, or you don't beat anybody. And then when you don't win that one, now you're struggling to catch up to 2 better teams that are pretty well endowed in terms of good players. So we didn't expect to win those games. If our goalies happen to have great games, we have a better chance. But our goalies were played good, and we got beat both times, and that's okay. We always learn, and we certainly learn about effort, and that's the big part of it. The no quitting part of it's really important, and I can't tell you how. I don't really have to. I don't think with goalies, most part when in games or any teams anywhere, goalies don't quit, and but we remind them that that's not acceptable. I don't. We don't really care, but well, we do care what the other players do on the team when we're not doing well. We'd like them to all play like they're crazy the whole time, but that's up to them. It's their hockey careers. We're going to look after ourselves. And so we really appreciate our goalies and how hard they work. What doesn't matter what the score is. I know I love our guys. I just to mention, you'll see late in the game, 2 minutes to go, the score is 9-1 for the other guy, and there's a pass across, and our goalie's flying across the net to make a diving save. Boom, and they do, and it makes them feel good. They're trying. They're not giving up. They're not going to stop playing. That's why I think we're considered to be crazy. We just don't stop. We just keep going. Anyway, I'm proud of our kids.
True competitors for sure, and yeah, sometimes tough to be able to keep fighting when the Scores sometimes look the way they do, like this past weekend, right, against BWC and Delta Hockey Academy. But that fighting spirit, Gordy, for this team, a team that has a lot of skill as well, is led by some superstar talent, and it has gone through some injuries as the season's gone along. I'm sure we've talked about it before, but how huge will this team's fighting spirit be come playoff time against the high-end teams they'll be going up against?
Well, again, playing in our realm, so that's a bonus. And I know that and I should say this, the game that the U18s played today, and but they didn't have a team. We had to cancel the game for Sunday or Saturday. We didn't have enough players. They're all sick. So our dorms is kind of an incubator for anywhere we've got kids all clustered into one place. Schools, arenas, dressing rooms, dormitories, blah, 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 uh, incubators for colds and flu and sick. And we were down to almost no players. So, excuse me, the all of our teams have been in that situation. They're getting better and just in time for the playoffs. So that'll be a bonus for us. We'll be all healthy, or should be mostly healthy by the time you get going next week with these guys.
Yeah, it's always unfortunate when an illness hits like this, as well as the timing of it, right? With us getting into prime time here in the season. But yeah, I'm wishing everyone in good health over at Pilot Mound, hoping everyone recovers here soon. But as for them, they ended up, yeah, of course, playing today. We're talking about the U18 male prep buffs now, Gordy, of course fallen to RHA, but of course not at 100%. And of course, already tough to beat these RHA teams, even if you are at 100%, given the skill with those teams in that academy. But as for Pilot Mountain, they'll have one last game coming up on March 1st against Nax. Game's going to be in Pilot Mound. Yeah, let's talk about the upcoming outlook for the U18s, how they'll be focusing heading into their playoff action this season.
Yeah, they're the last guys to start in the playoffs. They don't get going till March the 11th. So their March 1st game at home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a special game. Our every year, all of the graduating kids off of all the high school teams and off the academy teams around the country all celebrate those people that are going to be leaving us through graduation. And so we graduate, I think, about of the 20 kids, 15 of the boys. So we're gonna lose most of them to junior hockey, hopefully next year for them. And so, but yeah, so it'll be a bit of an emotional game on Saturday. Nax is a pretty good team coming out northern Alberta. So the atmosphere will be really good. We'll have, I think, all of the other teams will be the U17s will be on the road. They'll still be traveling to BC. But we'll have our girls team and our U15 teams in the arena. So we'll have some cheerleading going on, and hopefully that'll help our guys play a little bit, give Nax a tough game.
Yeah, and it always seems like the best could come out of these players on a senior day or night, in this case, senior day, since the game's going to be in the afternoon. But yeah, like you just mentioned, Gordy, with how much positivity and how much noise there's going to be in the crowd, and given that, well, this Buffalo's team going to need all the help they can get, like many teams against these Nax teams. How huge do you think it could translate into their game in terms of this team maybe wanting to show their best effort in a lot of these players' last game in the regular season jersey as a Buffalo?
Yeah, it's going to be their last game as a Buffalo player in terms of home game, so that'll be a big deal. Yeah, and the next kids will come in and they're pretty. I mean, they're talented as heck. So we're talking about 20 kids that are all members of some WHL team somewhere, and an Alberta junior or BC junior team. So the chances of us winning are probably slim, but they're certainly there if we get a little bit of a jump on them and we catch them a little bit flat-footed, they're on the bus. Who knows? If our goalie happens to be able to stand on his head or more, or two or three times on his head, you never know what can happen. So we're looking for Aiden Trapp to have a big game in his last home game, and then the rest of the kids to do just as well as we can, and lots of cheers in the stands. So that'll be a bonus for us.
Hey, Gordy, this game going to be played in March, right? And we all know what comes up in March. Well, I feel like a lot of us know who love watching sports. March Madness. Hopefully,
Ooh.
some March Madness for the Buffaloes coming up against. They're looking to pull off the upset coming up on that senior afternoon at 2 p.m. on March 1st at Blackjack Stewart Arena. But Gordy, as for upcoming stuff, ID camps coming up starting in March, and then they're gonna run into the next month as well in April. But yeah, tell me about the latest around that. Any developments?
Well, lots of kids signing up. I know, and we've turned our scouts loose. We've got about 15 scouts out there in Europe, Asia, and North America, and so we're really chasing players all over the place. We're hoping, as we did this year, we improved our teams a little bit. So did everybody else, I think. So at the end of the day, it's a hard ladder to climb, but we're working on it. And we've enlisted some parents who got their finger on the pulse in their part of wherever they're from, and to check out players and let them know that Pilot Mound's got a good program. And so, yeah, ID camps begin, I think, the last weekend in March for the U15s. The girls are 2 weeks later, and the big boys, both 17s and 18s, are the weekend of the 18th to the 20th in April. So we're looking for signing up kids and getting on with that part of our program. We don't sign the full rosters by the end of the ID camps normally. Normally there's probably 5 positions open, maybe a few more. And it just depends on what kind of ID camp attendance we get and the quality of players. And then we start, looking around a little bit deeper into some of the other things that we've seen over the season. So, we should have our rosters put to bed sometime. I'm going to say in May for the most part. Might be on straggler position in June, but we'd like to get them all put to bed by the end of May so that we can relax a little bit and have a better summer.
Well, plenty of conversation about that coming up in the next few episodes here. And as we come to an end of the conclusion of the season 2 of this year's Buffaloes podcast, Gordy Tummelson, as always, joining me on this edition, another edition of the Buffaloes podcast. Gordy, always fun, always a pleasure until 7 days' time from now. We'll see you again to do this all again, hey?
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but I got the playoff beard going on there. It's a little bit gray, so it's harder to see. But it's a lot gray. It's harder to see. But anyway, we're getting ready for it, and we're going to be ready for those playoffs. Go Buffs, go!
I'm looking forward to seeing it grow throughout time here, Gordy, in this year's playoffs. You take care. Thanks for coming on again.
Thanks, pal.
Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools has been the place to shop for your industrial needs for over 20 years. Carrying the tools you need to get the job done from the brands you can trust, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools has you covered. Brands like Milwaukee Tool, established in 1924 and on display in our Milwaukee Red Zone, the largest red zone in Winnipeg. With construction workers and tradespeople in mind, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools is your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs. So come on down to our Winnipeg store location today, located on 1557 King Edward Street in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Welcome back to the Buffaloes podcast, Buffaloes Nation. Gordy Tummelson coming on this week's edition of the show to talk about the past weekend of games and, of course, of what's to come for the teams here in Pilot Mound Hockey Academy. We'll get you to the schedule from these teams right away just to end things off here on this edition of the show. But yeah, the male U17s, of course, this was actually from last week, as they already took on these teams as mentioned. Here we go. Here is the updated schedule, as we can see here, I guess, for the male U18 Prep Buffaloes. They're playing one last time this Saturday in a regular season jersey for a lot of these players on this team, as I believe over half of this Buffalo squad going to be graduating out of the program. That going on Saturday, March 1st in the afternoon, not seniors night, but seniors day in Pilot Mound. Be sure to check it out, Blackjack Stewart Arena, if you're in that area and have a chance to. As for the female Prep Buffaloes, one last game for them before their postseason gets started against Balmoral Hall, taking on the Blazers this Friday night in Winnipeg at the Hockey for All Center. Those games can be seen on Flow Sports, on Flow Hockey. As for the male U15 Prep Buffaloes, they're going to be in action tonight at Pilot Mound Hockey Academy before their playoffs get set to go, as they'll be taking on RHA Winnipeg at 7:30 p.m. As those games can be seen, or that game can be seen on Flow Hockey, on Flow TV, if you do end up having a subscription to that service to take in these games. As for the Buffaloes U17 Prep program, they won't have any more games, of course, as that schedule is shown from their games last week. A week for them where they fared pretty well, a 6-1 victory over Notre Dame, the Hounds, 6-1 and then 4-2, and then a matchup where, hey, the score was pretty close, all things considered, against South Alberta Hockey Academy, only losing that matchup 6-3. As for everything else happening around the academy, well, the biggest thing these players are focusing on at this point is getting set for their playoffs, and of course to finish off their regular season strong, as 3 out of the 4 teams in the academy still have some regular season games left to be played before we get into the good stuff, which is the playoffs. We're going to end off the show here, everybody. That's all we really got for this edition of the Buffaloes podcast this week. Check back next week, as we'll have more news, more stories, and just more great content from the academy overall. I want to thank Tessa Haggart, as well as Sadie Swanton and Gordy Tummelson, on coming on and being the guest for this episode 23 season 2 edition of the Buffaloes podcast. I want to thank you, the viewer, for also tuning into this one as well. Buffaloes Nation, if you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications. All things help us out here on the channel in terms of helping us grow, and they also help you stay up to date if you subscribe and turn on notifications on when episodes like this will be coming out next. The next edition of the Buffaloes podcast will be hitting you next week on Wednesday, 7 days from now, as we'll be talking about the first little part of playoffs, what's to come for all these teams in the academy, and much more. On that edition of the show, I want to thank Terrico Goaltenders, McKenna Fasters and Tools, and Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia for sponsoring another edition of the official Pilot Mound Hockey Academy podcast. And until next week, like I said, Buffaloes Nation, we're going to leave you off with Tyson Unruh, Juno Award winner, in his March of the Buffaloes theme, here for another edition of this great podcast. Hope you all enjoyed it. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy all the great hockey coming your way, Buffaloes Nation and Pilot Mound Hockey Academy fans. And yeah, until 7 days from now, it's been your host, Graham the G Show Forsyth, giving you the peace out and waving so long, everybody. Take care. Thanks for tuning in.